Yeah, we got a good show for you guys today. Good show. But the question today is kind of interesting, I feel like. So, all right, coach is almost ready. So, I'm just going to start off with this. If you had the first pick, right, and you can build around, all right, coach is ready. How you doing, coach?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Doing good, doing good. And no, Dark Lumen, this is not live. This is pre-recorded. But yeah. So let's just get right into it. If you pick one player to surround your team with, who would it be and why? And here's the kicker. Let's say I pick hypothetically Tyrese Maxey. Blaze cannot pick Tyrese Maxey. So we gotta try to pick a different player from each one of us. So it's actually gonna I feel like it's kinda interesting. So yeah, what is up, Chad? What is up, man? What is up? Yeah, your Steelers got Mason Rudolph. That's their quarterback. Yeah. Hey, hey. So let's start off with Blaze here. So who would you pick to surround your team by? Surround your team with?
I mean, I'll take the home run and take the probable MVP this year, SGA.
Okay.
I mean, he can do it all. You don't really have. I mean, there hasn't really been issues with him as far as personality or off the court stuff or whatnot. I mean, not just the fact that he's a Kentucky guy, but I mean, if you're going to pick anybody right now, I would want to pick a younger guy who's a good team player who is in the MVP talks right now with him and Joker. So I'll take SGA. I just like his all around game.
Yeah, we'll talk about that actually later on in the show. It's actually one of the topics. So, Coach, who would you pick to surround your team with?
Hmm.
SGA is off the board.
Anthony Edwards.
I knew you were going to go that route. I had a really good
I was
feeling. You were
battling
always a big
between
fan of him.
I'm battling between him and Brunson.
Ah, that is close. But if it were me, I'll pick Edwards.
I take Edwards because he has better defense. That's
Yeah,
but Brunson is gritty and the leadership skills, and he can score on you. So, but yeah, I'm going to take Anthony Edwards.
all right, sounds good. I like Marley's take right here, Kate Cunningham. Not a wrong pick at all. The way he's been playing, the way Detroit's been playing with Tobias Harris. I just got to throw that in there. SGA looks like okay. So for me, I'm gonna try to go outside the box here. I don't want to go like too old. I don't want to go too young. So I'm not gonna go Jokic. That's pretty much like everyone's gonna pick pretty much Jokic
Hmm.
here. So it's really, you know what? Shout out to Rios. I want to start out with a young team. Give me Sengun. I'll take Alperen Sengun here. I really like his
All the
game
other players in the NBA.
because I'm trying to go outside the box.
Okay.
If you want me to pick someone in the box,
No, you
then I'll
pick
pick
whatever.
LeBron.
I'm just saying, you got the whole NBA, but two players to pick from, and I'm not knocking Shangoon at all, but
Yeah, yeah, my bestie Joey. So, haha, I beat you. Don't want to go too old or too young. Hey, you beat me to it, man. Pause. Tatum. Yeah, a lot of people are gonna go pick Tatum. All right. You know what? I'll switch. I'll go with Tatum's teammate,
Hmm.
Jalen Brown. I want a winner. I want a winner who can lead me to the finals, actually steps up in big time moments. I'm gonna go Jalen Brown, and I can't stand the Celtics. Can't stand the Celtics. Mitch McBride, since he's one of my favorite players at West Virginia.
who's who's
Okay,
who's Mitch McBride?
Miles McBride, dude, I had a long fucking day. I had a long fucking day. Yeah. So I'm waiting for Rios if he actually pops in. He didn't give me anything. So, all right. If you guys have a rant, if you guys want to, if there's something that's bothering you right now, let it out.
I don't,
Uh,
man. I really don't. It's kind of like that
you know,
calm before the storm type of postseason stuff, and not really excited about your own team, and can't really care about the whole thing. It's like so wait till next year. But I'm hyped about the postseason. I think it's going to be pretty competitive. I am always hype about the last couple weeks of the season,
Hmm.
We talked about it last year. The level of play will rise.
Yes.
Get in, teams trying to get, ranking, trying to get out of that play-in, teams trying to get in the play-in. So you'll see the level of competition rise going into the postseason. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right. Coach, is there something you want to rant about or something that you're looking forward to?
You get me talking about LeBron or Perkins, I can rant.
I mean, we're talking about LeBron in a bit.
Perk again.
We're talking about LeBron again in a minute.
I'm going to say this. Draymond Green.
Yep.
That, in terms of when we deal with the loss of loved ones,
yep.
And you're wrong, just come out and flat out admit you were wrong. And he was very dismissive in a sense, disrespectful. Bro, Cat lost somebody, his girl lost her best friend, and you could tell that that's family. And to be dismissive and then act like, oh, I didn't know. Change your tenor. I mean, he's the worst person in a public figure that I could think of right now for that. I mean, that just really,
yeah.
I was just so angry when, that's what I heard was, he didn't want to face Jimmy, but excuse me?
Yeah.
And it was verified.
Yeah.
It goes back to that philosophy I like to say sometimes. I mean, yes, these are role models and stuff too, but we love these guys because they're good at basketball, not because they're great people. Some of them are great people. Some of them are piece of shit people. I mean, you can go all the way back to the Ty Cobbs and back in the day and how horrible womanizers, racists, just terrible people, beating their wives up, alcoholics, drug addicts. I mean, these are the professional athletes. And yes, sometimes you fall in love with how they are outside the game too. But I always try to keep in the back of my mind, this person's on this stage because they're really good at basketball. That's why. It's not because of their political beliefs or their religious beliefs or any of this other stuff. I mean, and I let everyone be whoever they want to be. But that's a perfect example of I respect Draymond Green, the tough guy type of player. You got to have that on a team. You have a badass on your team that ain't afraid of nobody, your whole team gets raised up. So I would never, I'm not talking about his game at all, but when you see people say stuff like that, and they should know how much weight their voice has by now, since high school, college, being treated like kings and queens, making all the money in the world, supporting dozens of people that work for them. But I always try to keep that grain of salt that, it disappoints me to hear them talk like that because they have that stage where their voice is going to be heard by millions. And to say shit like that, it's just that just proves, like Coach said, what kind of person he is. And we're not talking about him on the court, which he's shown that type of attitude on the court too, and in practice and stuff. But I mean, is it just his personality bleeding over to say something stupid like that? Is he looking for attention? I mean, I don't know. I mean, they have a lot better things to worry about right now because with the addition of Butler, they're in the game. They're back in the game. Draymond's a huge piece of that. Steph is still one of the best in the game. They have young players. They're back in the mix, but he's gonna distract it by saying dumb shit. I mean, I don't understand it. I just wish they had more of a mental capacity to realize their voice is going to be heard by millions. And sometimes you just got to keep your opinion to yourself, but that's them. He wants to tell how he feels about something, and we have a right to shit on it when it's like a bad take like this.
Dark Lumen. Yes, he said he heard it, but when they confronted him and asked him about, that's when he was like, well, this is what I heard. He lost someone, condolences, but this is what I heard. So, and he's alluding to it, and you can read between the lines, and his sarcasm was coming through loud and clear. You say you don't want to take it that way. You consider him a good guy. You have every right to feel that way. For me, he turned me off because of that. And it's not because it's a Knick. Let me make sure that's perfectly clear. It's because they were talking about losing someone. And we've all, when someone loses someone, your tone changes, it softens. He was still a hard ass. So, and I know you thought he was apologetic. Okay. Most of us, no. Most of the people I've talked to, no, felt that he wasn't. He was just saying, well, what I heard is this, and he's making an excuse. But hey, you took it that he was apologetic. I can't tell you how to think, man. I just can't. I read between the lines. I read his tone, his mannerism, the smirk on his face. So your body language, it told me a whole different story. So, but that's me. That's my opinion.
So for me, what I gotta say about this, it's kind of like what Blade said, just keep your opinion to yourself. It's kind of like what that woman told LeBron to shut up and dribble when you go up to that. Basketball players need to know, okay, this is not my place to tell. I should not say this, but he did not heard. He just Draymond at the end of the day. It is Draymond. So
yeah, I mean, but they have the ability to bring people together with their
Right.
big voice. You know what I'm saying? They have ability
Yeah.
to raise people up and make them feel better. So why even send any type of mixed signals? I don't understand. It's like, yeah, the shut up and dribble thing, you can take it both ways. You can take it as, if he's out here trying to help people by his voice and his opinion, that's one thing. But to be divisive or even coy in your responses and leaving it out to like right now, we have a mixed opinions on what he was trying to say. Why not just be clear about what you're saying so there isn't this, well, he's a little tongue in cheek, or does he really mean that? Why leave that to the people to decide? I don't know. I mean,
And we all have
me.
different.
I'd rather concentrate on the on-court shit, but this stuff is always here.
Yeah.
And we also have different ways of interpreting things. Like Dark Lumen said, their interpretation is different from mine. I'm just turned off, and it's the tough guy attitude on the court. I'm old school. I'm cool with that. But and when you're thinking about people losing, and Cat's talking about relating to the children that lost their mother because he lost his mother, it's like, where's the empathy? And I just didn't interpret it as he was apologetic and sincerely apologetic, and showing some level of empathy, towards Cat. And it's just I just felt he was dismissive and poking the bear in a sense.
Yep, I definitely agree with that. But on other news, we actually got some breaking news in the football world. The Eagles just got Adoree Jackson.
Why we gotta go back to the Eagles?
It just happened. It just happened.
That's nobody big anyway.
The Giants.
Come on, get over it.
Got another Giants guy.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna win 10 Super Bowls in a row now with that pickup.
Yeah. It was.
And that's a good point by Dark Lumen. We don't know what else happened behind the scenes. We can only take what we see on TV, how they present themselves when they're being interviewed, when they're being questioned. If something like that happens, that might change a little bit. But they know by now, after being in the spotlight for so many years, that everything they say will be scrutinized, and how they say it and their mannerisms and everything.
Yeah. Oh, Marley likes your shirt, please. Ducky. Yeah, March Madness is starting the selection Sunday. This Sunday, I'll be live streaming it.
Yeah, Cooper Flag shirt.
Yeah, sucks.
Boy, the biggest, what you were just talking about.
Cooper Flag shirt?
No, but selection Sunday.
Oh yeah,
it's a massive, massive disappointment for me.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I had to do some research because we were saying, and I don't follow college basketball like I used to up until like now, because NFL just ended, NBA's picking up, so it's like now I'm in I used to follow it from day one. But I was a little bit this time, but it's like I had to go look at your boys like Harper and Bailey. I'm like, what happened to Rutgers? They're still averaging 17, 16 points a game. Bailey's got almost 7 or 8 rebounds a game, so that's good. But to have a losing record overall with 2 supposedly in the top 10, it's got to be a disappointment. But from what I've heard, their draft stock isn't really dropping because of it.
No, their draft, they're top. They're in their top 3, top 5. It's not them. It's the surrounding supporting cast, because Harper is 19.7. I think Bailey is 17.9, and the next person, who's also a freshman, is 7.9. That's a big drop off.
Yeah.
That's a big drop off. Yeah. So,
but the level of playing, when you got 2 players that are that freaking great and you don't have accompaniment with it, that shows. It's not just as many people would say basketball could be a 1 or a 2-man game. If you really dig down deep into it, we talked about the Celtics and the Nuggets, the last 2 teams to win the championship.
Mm-hmm.
They are not 1 or 2 people. They're deep. They have bench. They have role players. They have that guy coming off the bench to hit threes, that defensive juggernaut to come off the bench. Like, that's a team. That's a complete team. And it's like, to see a team like that, it's kind of an eye opener, because you see teams like Auburn blowing up and all these other teams that are doing great all year. The SEC is just out of this planet this year, and as far as that tournament starting out now, and you start to look, and here's the thing. Everyone out there with this tank for flag stuff. What if he broke his leg today? What if that was and I don't wish injuries on anybody. And we're talking about Ace and Harper, like, they're still top tier. There's 5 players that are like way at the top, and everybody else is kind of, you could get a star out of it. And that's why I'm still so weird about, like, teams or players or fans that would want to lose to risk trying to get maybe a good guy. There's no Wemby in this draft. Cooper Flagg is not Wemby. He's not anybody else. And it's like, what if that one player that people are thinking can be the man who can change a team breaks his leg and he's out for, maybe into next season? Is he still a first round pick? Sure. But now you're talking about, what if it was his knee, an ACL or something like that? Now you're talking about durability. So it's like, you can't bank a complete franchise on one player. That's the synopsis of this story. Whether it's college players not performing with the team like they should, or banking on one player in a draft to change your entire team. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure most professional hierarchies that run these teams don't think one player is going to save their world in this draft. So it makes no sense to want to lose to try to get the first or second or third pick because of the lottery, and because none of these players are like guaranteed. I still think the 2 Rutgers boys have everything you need in an NBA player. But it's like, now people are going to start to question a little bit.
Bailey has all the tools. He just has to gain some weight and get stronger. I watched him working out with Giannis, and Giannis was telling us, and he's picking it up beautifully. He has a good stroke. And he can shoot the 3-pointer. Harper, gritty, can attack the paint. He can post up for you. He can play the passing lanes. He can shoot the threes. He also is left-handed, so it does throw some defenders off. So, and he's more plug and play right now. He's NBA ready because he's also been groomed. His father played in the NBA and won championship. His brother played in the NBA. So they've talked to him. He has people in the NBA who are mentors, who have really sat down and helped him. So as a franchise, you decide, first of all, do you need a lead guard? And him being roughly 6'6", 6'7", so he has good height. He's smart. He has good vision, anticipation. And following Rutgers and looking at a lot of the chatter and the talk, because I haven't seen them all year. People are breaking down, and they said there's no way, based on they're blaming the coach a lot too, but they feel a lot of their teammates let Harper and Bailey down. You had some veteran guys who you got in the portal, and you brought them in, and they didn't produce. They were producing at their former schools, but they weren't producing here. Is it a product of you stepping up and playing in the Big Ten, or they just don't have the talent overall. So, so we're going to see. But I'm looking forward to seeing where they go, and I think they're going to do well. Bailey may take a little bit of time to adjust to the level of physicality, but once he gets used to that, I'm telling you, he's going to develop. It's kind of like KD when he came out from Texas and went to Seattle, but his scoring was there. But yeah, what did teams do? They were physical with him because he was skinny. Giannis, when he first came in the league, he was skinny, but he got in the weight room. So, and that's what I'm looking at down the road within the next 5 years. I think Harper might start out well, but then Bailey will grow. And if they're in the right systems, then you're going to see, their talent. Cooper Flag, I haven't really followed. I haven't seen anything. I've seen limited highlights, so I can't speak to his game. So you guys would have to tell me.
I think one of the point that you're making too is that we've talked about a lot is that these are little kids, these are babies. That's their bodies still haven't developed yet. Coming out freshman and sophomore, you're still growing. I mean, you can still grow a couple inches. You can still put on a lot of weight. I mean, once you get into your mid-20s, I think the man's body accepts weight a little more. Like I was a skinny prick my whole life until I turned like 40, and then I could put on weight. So it's like, I know everyone's different, but in that 17 to 22 range, your body is still growing. So we see more of it now because of the one and dones and the two and dones instead of when me and Coach were younger, you saw big boys coming out of college because they're already 22, 21 or whatever, or even 19-year-olds who can be fully developed. So, and that's the growing pains of the NBA. You can't expect a lot of these players, especially some of the foreign players we're seeing more and more every year in the first round, to accommodate to our game. And this goes to something I heard a lot of people talking about, which I was against it at first, and now I'm not really sure. Number one, college switching to quarters. To universalize basketball kind of a little more. The European game, let's maybe get the same three-point line everywhere. Let's get some of these rules that are closer because it's more of an international sport. I would like to see if they're going to make changes because obviously, with the ratings and stuff, we've heard all this. NBA needs to change this, change that, change this. I think it's little tweaks more than major changes. And if they can universalize the professional rules a little more, I think that'll help balance it for some players. Like, I mean, think about it. Coming in from an international team that you've played, like Luka, I'm sure he had to adjust a little bit with the three-point line. The paint is a little different. The wideness of some of the courts are a little different. So that makes a difference. And, those are minor things in the overall scheme of playing basketball. But you got to think that if for some way, like obviously grade school, high school rules are going to be a little different. But once you hit college, I think college should be more in sync with the total rules that you get in the NBA and international play.
You know what, Blaze? You're talking about, trying to make like the 3-point universal across the board and little things like that. But again, like you said, it's the rules, the interpretation, the international is different. So, and that would be the NBA having to adjust to the international, and they're not going to want to do that. They're going to want to say, we set the standard and everybody plays off of us. They all want to come here and play to us, so they have to adapt to us. But I get where you're going, because, one of the things that, is I see that it's difficult for American born players to adapt to when you play internationally is that, hitting the ball out of the basket after it hits the rim. Where, we are used to once it's coming down, touches the rim, you have to wait till it comes out of the cylinder. Where in international, you can just, once it hits the rim, you can knock it out once it bounces up. And, it's just little things like that. Like you said, the lane width, some are wider than others. And yeah, you're right. Where most of the other countries all pretty much internationally are playing by the IOC, I believe. Yeah. Who regulates the Olympics, where in America we don't play by those rules. So it's like, we develop the rules, the game, and if you want to play American basketball, where I'm saying, look, we've all heard that the NBA is trying to put teams in Europe, Well, what rules are you going to play out there? Are you doing that because you're trying to draw international players, or are you doing that because? Sorry, are you doing that because you're trying to force international teams, in a sense, to adjust a little bit more to the American game? I don't know. So we'll see.
Yeah. The thing I'm looking forward to the most about the Selection Sunday, I'm just going to say this and then we'll move on to the next thing. It's just, I always love when you see the college teams like waiting for them to get in, to get placed. And then once they find out, you see the excitement and everything, no matter what seed you get, they're just glad that they made it. That's always been my favorite part. If they're like the 16th seed against the 1 seed, we've seen 16 seeds beat 1 seeds. So anything can happen in March Madness, and seeing the look on these kids' faces, I love the most. I think that's the greatest thing.
Next to the dunk competition, the tournament, the March Madness is one of the things I normally look forward to a lot, because I used to do the big board behind me. I would get 4 big boards. I'd make the board out. I'd fill it out the whole way. I used to do a poll. So I'd run around the whole neighborhood and have a bunch of people fill out their brackets and get them back to me, and we try for money. And then it's just a big what if. Who's going to be the Cinderella team? What small school is going to get a win over a big one, like you just mentioned? Who's going to have that Steph Curry, Jimmer Fredette, Danny Manning type of run? And now we have a new star. That could happen with a bunch of these teams where one of their sort of stars become a mega star because they ride that wave of that player through the whole tournament, make it to the grade 8, Final Four, or whatever championship. And now all of a sudden, the 5 players we're talking about in the draft become 6 or maybe 7 just because of March Madness.
What's up, Nick?
Yeah, what's up, Nick? How's it going, man? How's it going? So I'm actually
showing Cooper Flag on the bench in the second half. So it's probably just like I've had they're talking about it on one of the PTI right now about his injury. And they're showing he came back out and he was on the bench for the second half. They just didn't play him because they were up 10 most of the time. So just from experience, I've probably twisted each of my ankles 2 or 3 dozen times over the years. There's a grade 1 sprain where, you get a little bit of coloration and you're back in a day or 2. A grade 2 sprain can keep you out for a week. And that's when you get the black and blue turning gold, and you can't put weight on it for the first few days. And then a grade 3, which I've had a bunch of times, is it's swollen so bad you got to stay off of it and keep it elevated for like at least 4 or 5 days up to a week. And then the second week is recovery. Could take a third week to get back to full strength just off of and then that's not even discussing tendons, ligaments, anything that might have been damaged or stretched out in the ankle. And the thing that they were talking about, and I was watching McAfee at the same time, this is what blows my mind about the NBA as a whole. LeBron might be one of the only ones left that wears mid-length or high tops. They're all wearing low tops. And a lot of, and what they were talking about is the reason, like KD, you look at KD's shoes, they are like runner's shoes. They're nowhere near like me. When I played, I would double tie. I had ankle braces I would wear because of how many times I twisted my ankles. And because I was skinny, you're landing. And they're like soccer players wore low cleats and stuff too. So they were comparing that to the agility. But I'm like, soccer players aren't jumping up and down on hardwood nonstop. That's the problem, is you land on someone's foot and then you turn your ankle over. That could be a day or 2. That could be 3 weeks. So depending on, if he's walking on it right away, I'd say it's probably a grade 1 at the worst, a 2. So he should be back for the tournament.
Man, boys, you just took me back. I remember in college, I sprained my ankles, and I was walking around campus with crutches.
And as a bigger guy, it's tougher too, because you got a lot more weight that you're holding on to those feet, to those ankles.
And going through therapy, but then come game day, what do? Tape your ankle up to the point where it's like a cast. Like, and you go out there and play.
Air cast. I used to wear air casts on my ankles. I had 2 air casts I would wear, and then shoes over top of it. It just blows my mind to see, like, if you go to a Finish Line, or I don't even know if they have Foot Lockers anymore, in different stores, basketball, it's all low tops. I'm like, are you crazy? Yeah. Like, And I mean, I don't know. I don't get it. I could not
I
play.
get 3/4. I get 3/4 sneakers.
I played one
at that.
year in low tops because my team was green and I couldn't find Adidas green. I only found them in low tops. And I had to wear ankle brace, air cast, tape, everything, or else my ankles were destroyed by the first half. And that's not even twisting them. That's just, lateral movement and stuff. As a basketball player, you can injure your ankles. So as soon as I see someone roll an ankle, my heart drops a little bit. I get that feeling in my legs again that I felt. And I mean, hey, I tell the story about that outside dunk competition that I got second place in, and I had ankle brace. I had a twisted ankle earlier that week. Luckily, it was far enough along where I had it so taped up you can't feel it, as much. Like you said, it's like a cast almost when you tape it up so much. So when I see a player like that go down, and that's the player right now, most people are thinking going number one, and you never know. You never know what can happen.
If you want somebody to talk about Duke basketball, Man Cave is the one. He's a big Duke fan.
He is.
Dookie, huh?
He is.
Just don't bring up Christian Laettner. I can talk other Duke stuff. Just don't bring up Christian Laettner.
Everybody hates Christian, huh?
Oh, yeah. I actually did watch that when they had that show. And I was
30 for 30. I love that.
Oh, yeah. I was like, I don't want to watch it because I just don't want to see that shot anymore.
Hey, what about me in Michigan? Right?
You're going to call timeout?
Doesn't matter. Weber did it again.
And you're going to travel away and call timeout.
Yeah, he did that already.
Then again, I guess you love playing against Seton Hall. So, Michigan, right? Really?
Yeah.
I remember. Oh, Big East. We're really going to talk about this Stephen A. thing. Do we really have to spend time on this?
I want to hear your take because I was going at it with halftime.
Right.
And halftime was just like, he's a dad, man. He's a dad. I'm like, bruh.
Here's the thing, though. He's also his kid's a grown man, a professional. If you're going to be a grown man and professional, you're going to put your kid in that position. I get it. Being a dad, you're going to want to defend him. Yeah. He knows Stephen A. enough that he could have done it in the back at halftime, where he knows the camera. He knew the cameras were on him, and he was trying to just like when Tatum hit him in the chin yesterday. Oh my God, I'm injured, and he acts like he got murdered. You're too good to do that. He's too amazing to have to do that shit. But he knows have you ever seen the video of the little kids? And they say, this is what LeBron has created. And the little kid, it's an out of bounds play. And they're like right on top of each other. And as soon as the out of bounds comes in, the kid's arm goes up and the other kid just totally flops and gets the call.
You know what? I have a hard time with this, with the flopping and blaming LeBron, because I'm sorry. The master was Reggie Miller.
Oh, yeah.
He's
carrying it on.
But it just, everyone is saying, well, LeBron is the problem because he created it. No, some of y'all need to. That's the thing. They blame they're exactly. But every last player continues that. I'm sorry.
He just does every player. Plus, the eyeballs are always on him more because he's arguably the greatest player to ever hold a basketball. And when people talk about that, he's one of them in the conversation. He should realize, number one, I get it. When you're that big of the man, you're going to get that call if it looks even close. I love that we have replay, but that even fails sometimes. But I mean, you see these highlights of he's done it just so much. But when Reggie Miller was doing it, there was a guy named Michael Jordan and a guy named Hakeem, and there was other guys that were arguably above Reggie, even though Reggie was, and arguably, you got LeBron, who is top 5 still, even as old as he is.
True.
When he does it, then everyone else, it just kind of bleeds in. And yes, it's always been there to some extent. But to see how egregious it is sometimes, it seems like he's just out for attention. I saw a highlight of him the other day. As soon as he got his triple-double, he threw the ball down and looked over to coach, take me out. It's like, what kind of player is that? Like, do you really want that type of attitude? He's out just for number. I got my 50,000. I got my 40,000. I'm the highest scorer in this. I get all that. But to stage this with Stephen A., where you got to confront him right in front of the world to say it, you could have done it somewhere else. I get the father thing, but Bronny's also a grown man now. Let him fight his own battle. Let him prove that he can be. And Stephen A., as much as I disagree with things he said, he's 100% right about what he said about Bronny. If you're on that stage, get ready to get criticized. I still am a fan of Bronny because even though people say it's just G League, scoring 30 points in G League ain't nothing to sneeze
You mean
about.
Bronny James?
He's still playing against people that are trying to get into the closest to the NBA players that there are. And once again, let's go back to the fact he only played 1 year of college. He's not as tall as the other James. He doesn't have the body of his dad, and then living under the shadow of your dad that whole time. You really think if we had Bronny away from his dad and he never knew his dad would know this, do you think Bronny's happy that LeBron did that? That's an embarrassment to his son. I get sticking up, but now it's like, I can't fight my own wars. I need you, Dad, to go out there and yell at someone who criticized me. Why don't you let me prove his criticism wrong on the court eventually?
Blaze, I'm going to say this, all right, because we come from a different era. Cheryl Miller, she was on.
I saw it.
You saw how she was talking about Caitlin Clark, and she said. She said, I'm glad where I came from because it's different now. Yes, social media has opened it up the I want the attention. Mm-hmm. They're in that era. Yes, it is. And they're used to it, they embrace it, and they run with it. And that's where more than LeBron, it's thank you. It's more of a societal thing because of social media.
Yeah.
Because instantly, what do we always do? No matter what, we're picking up our phones.
Yep.
We're
see
going.
What people are saying about it. Yep. See what people are saying.
Going to all the different social media platforms, and guess what? That's the norm. Where you and I, guess what? We picked up a paper. We were, that's where it is. We turned on the TV, listened to the radio. You didn't have all this coverage inundating you the way it is today.
Coach, if this was 1989, we would have been hearing the story about how LeBron punched Stephen A. back in a locker room somewhere. That's what it would have been. Keep my son's name out your mouth, like a Will Smith. It would have been no on TV. LeBron would have took it under himself to be like, Now say something about my son, Stephen A. That's what we had been heard about. It would have been on TV or nothing because they didn't have cameras everywhere and film everywhere. But we would have heard about LeBron got mad at Stephen A. and punched him.
No, you're right, and that's the thing. A lot. It's just like the Mad Max when he's talking and you're hearing all this stuff. And it's like, I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't even hear this. I didn't know that. Like, I love the one about Akeem. I was like, oh, wow.
You're right. Everything's under a microscope now, 1,000 times more because of social media that we didn't have back then.
They sit back and they embrace it. Everything they do is under the microscope. They go to the store and they go to the bathroom and somebody is, LeBron James or Steph Curry went to the bathroom. Yep. They were in the middle stall, or they were in this stall, and I heard them in there grunting and really?
Yeah.
So I get where you're going in terms of, the flopping and he draws. Yeah, you know what? He's in the me era. That's what they do. They're trying to influence the referees because some referees are gullible and they're going to give them the call. And some of the more veteran referees are going to tell them, shut up and just go ahead and I got it. I saw it. Or you know what? I missed the call. So, you know what? But as far as with him and Stephen A., I'm with you, man. First of all, your son, my daughters will tell you when they were 18, I'm like, y'all grown, man. I don't have to. Somebody don't put their hands on you, anything else, I raised you. You know how to handle yourself, talk your talk, whatever the case may be. Go handle your business, or you know what? LeBron James, you're supposed to have that rapport with Stephen A. Yo, Stephen A., I need to talk to you. Can we talk?
I'll talk to you after the game.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, he's drawing attention to it. Like you said, cameras are out there. And Stephen A., like he said during the whatchamacallit, he saw after a while, he was like, yeah, okay, you got it.
It kind of reminds me of the Will Smith thing with Jada Pinkett. Why do you have to yell, keep my wife's name? She's right there. She's a tough lady. She can speak for herself. It was a big problem. I'm sure if you got Bronny quietly alone, listen, your dad will never know about this ever. How do you feel about him? he's probably going to say it sucks because it makes me look like I can't fight my own battles. You know,
Right.
like I got to have him go confront someone on TV. And then here's the worst part. That night and the next day, we're not talking about the basketball games and who won. We're talking about LeBron confronting Stephen. That's what I hate the most, is it takes all the focus off of the court. The game is why we're here.
True.
But I get the whole social media thing, and it's part of it. I don't have a problem with it. I live on social media. It's what I do, you know, every day. So I have a problem with it. I just think, and I've said this a million times, if kids and high school people were taught, especially athletes, and I'm sure they are to some extent once they get up there, how to handle the media, how to handle questions, how to handle social media when you're in the spotlight. You know, you can have your social media presence, because I know you get monetized, you can make money, you get fans that way, you please your fans. I totally get all that. But there has to be a line drawn. And we talk about the Maxey and the Paul George thing. Why is someone like Maxey decides, I'm going to stop my podcast so I can concentrate on the game during the season. But then someone like PG says, I want to keep going because we have stuff to talk about during the season more on a basketball podcast. I get both ways, but it's like, obviously, some people can't juggle both. Some people can. That's the fine line now. Can you be this social media presence and still do your job? And if your job is lacking and you're putting too much work over here in part B, there needs to be like a manager, a general manager, someone to say, hey, listen, let's sit down. Let's talk about this. You know, we need to change some things. You know, they're still working for that company. No matter how big you are, LeBron or AD or KD or Ant Edwards, whoever, you're still working under this corporation. And I just think a lot of them think they're bigger than the corporations anymore. It's never going to go away. It's only going to get worse, but it is what it is. And the moment I think we get a new crop of kids with different attitudes, maybe, that some of this might go away, I hope.
I mean, look at Anthony Edwards, right? With his off the court antics, yelling at referees.
The more he opens his mouth, the more I lose respect for him. And I don't want to, because he's like one of my favorite players, how he plays.
Yep.
It's almost like he doesn't have someone helping him know what to say. Or listen, I 100,000% be yourself. Do not change who you are. I'm not saying that for anybody, but you got to know the limitations, especially when you're that big of a star. Once again, it's back to what we talked about before. Your voice is so prominent. You got to kind of be a little more careful of how you present yourself, but still be yourself. I don't want people to fake who you are. But once again, we don't follow these players because they are this religion or follow this background or they, you know, they're this politics side or, you know, yeah, their voice can have power, but we follow you because you're good at your sport. You're one of the best in the world at what you do. So I just wish they would use it more for positive things instead of trying to sway people to follow their opinion.
That's it's not just athletes though. That's everything. That's businesses.
Yeah.
That's people in entertainment. You know it. You know, to a certain degree, think about us. Yeah, we would love to be monetized because, you know, that's some extra money in our pockets. You know, it may not be a lot, but it's still money. So I get it. That's just the society we live in. So
it's going to be tough being a $40 million, just thrown out there. Say I'm a professional athlete. I make $40 million a year, right? My coach, who I'm supposed to listen to all year, makes $5 million.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's just something I don't think we as fans think about enough. You know, that I'm not giving them the right to be, you know, with the God complex, but I understand why. When you're like, if I was working for my boss and I made 4 times my boss, actually, let me give you an example. When I worked for Verizon, we sold cell phones. Salesmen were on commission, right?
Right.
And the managers were on salary. So say my manager made $100,000, right, a year, plus bonuses on whatever. The top salesman, because he was so good, was making $120,000.
Yeah.
So he was making $20,000 more than his boss. He was more of a dick about things because he thought he pulled more weight because he made more money than his boss. I understand that, but it's tough. Same thing, BC. Same thing.
Yeah.
Players, owners.
Yeah, you're right, Blaze.
It's never going to change. It's all about the money. that's why whenever we have these podcasts, and I know this is newsworthy, all these things, so I'm not knocking Mitch at all. He does a fantastic job of putting together things for the show. But think about it. How often are we doing this show when we're talking about things that aren't basketball? It's not on the court. You know what I mean?
I know.
But it's still news. I'm not knocking you or anybody for it. We have to cover it because it's in the news.
Yeah.
But to me, the top 5 stories out of 6 should always be what happened on the court. And it's just not that way anymore.
Well, speaking of the court, right? Let's just hop right on into this. For the MVP, it's between SGA and Jokic. I feel like it's going to Jokic, and I feel like he's having an incredible year. But the media's perspective, they're going to go to Jokic. I feel like it should go to SGA. Give it to someone different, you know?
Yeah.
I'm getting tired of the repetition every single time.
But here's the thing. You can't really fault someone for winning 2 in the last 4 years to not win it this year. You really have to focus on performance this year. And right now, to me, it's a toss-up because averaging a triple-double, what he's been doing lately, Jokic, is phenomenal. What SGA has done last year and this year, carrying that team and leading, and he's not necessarily horking up 900 threes. You know, he's getting to the line. He's going to the basket. He's leading that team. He's getting assists. He's doing everything you'd want to do in an MVP. And when I think of MVP, and I did this when we were talking about football too, I take it literally. If you take that player off of that team, who's the most valuable? And it's still a toss-up between the two right now. I'm leaning towards SGA. It's not just because of the Kentucky thing and anything. Part of me wishes that we would wait until the season's over, including postseason, to determine it. Because postseason's part of it, right? It's still part of the season. It's a huge part. It determines the champion. And I get it. We're talking about the MVP of the regular season, and then there's a different one for the playoffs. Part of me wishes there were just one overall MVP for the whole season. They pick it at the end. There's probably more people would want to pick it as the team that wins, and that might not always be it. Like if SGA's team loses in the Western Finals, right, and Boston wins the championship, I still think if everything stayed status quo as right now, SGA is still the MVP. Say Jokic and the Nuggets get knocked out first round. SGA goes to the Western Finals and loses to, let's say, Lakers or Warriors, whatever. And then Boston wins the championship over whoever comes out of the West. Does that mean that Tatum and Brown have to get the MVP? No, I don't think so. I still think you have to look at the whole season and who is the most valuable. If you took out SGA, would they have made it to the Western Finals? Probably not. But right now, between him and Jokic, it's so tough that I'd literally have to wait these last 2 weeks to tell you who I think is going to get it. That's how close it is to me.
I agree. Coach, how about you?
I was under the belief, from what I've researched, that SGA is the front runner.
He is.
I never. Well, you just said that.
It is next. It's like 1 and 2 right now. It's like 1 and 2. SGA's 1, but Jokic is like right there.
Well, if you look, SGA's done pretty much consistently all year what he's been doing. In the last month, Jokic has gone to another freaking level again. It's like consistency to an unbelievable part. Like if he can continue to do this, I think right now it's SGA's to lose. If it stays the way it is, like Coach you just said, and it is, he's still the front runner. Like Jokic would have to fall off a little bit the last 2 weeks. But right now, I mean, 3 weeks ago, SGA was here. Jokic and everybody else was down here. Jokic is like right below him now just because of what he's been doing in the last 10, 12 games or so, because he's literally unstoppable. It looks like the Jokic of 2 years ago, like no one's going to stop them. And what happens when he does that is Porter and Westbrook and all the rest of the players start playing better on that team. That's why I think the Nuggets are really dangerous right now going in. You know, are they deep enough is going to be the question. But SGA, it's his to lose. It's his to lose. He would have to have a couple 12 or 10-point games or something in the last thing, and Jokic just keep doing what he's doing, which is out of this world. But right now, it should be SGA. If they finish first in the West and it's status quo the next 2 weeks, you got to give it to SGA. What's up, Retro? Yeah. But you can't deny what Jokic is doing. That's the only thing I'm saying right now. It's worthy of an argument now, based on the last 2 weeks, where a month ago it was clearly SGA.
I want to say this, though, in terms of Jokic, because, Mitch, you were talking about, him winning in 2 years and people being tired of it. I get human nature, but I'm
Yeah.
also going to say this to everyone else: step your damn game up.
Yeah, if he's the best, he's the
If
best.
he's the best, then y'all better step your game up to compete. It's just like the MJ era. MJ was the
Right.
best. Guys needed to step up. I feel for my Knicks and Patrick Ewing. Yeah, we had to deal with Michael. With Utah, when Utah had those moments, the only time anybody got a break is when MJ stepped away from the court and Houston won the two. But when MJ came back, if MJ didn't leave the court, he probably would have won 8 in a row.
Yeah.
So
But a
everyone
lot of
else.
people forget, though, is Michael had to deal with Boston and Detroit before
Yes.
he started winning titles,
Yes,
too.
exactly.
It didn't come easy for Mike.
No, he
No.
had to deal with Boston, Detroit, and Philly.
And Philly,
Because
too.
Philly was tough during.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
hell yeah, man. The
Trust me,
Mutombo and
Dr.
Iverson
J.
era was.
I know.
They could have had a championship when they had that team. They could have.
They could have. Yeah. Could have had one, but
lot of
Kawhi
people just
Leonard triple doink.
Yeah, a lot of people just forget about that. They think, and I'm a Mike guy. He's 6-0, but you think about before he got to those finals, the Pistons were on point. Boston was still doing well from what they did late 80s into the 90s. So there was a lot of teams, and the Sixers had firepower with Iverson and Mutombo and what they had put together. They had shooters. I mean, and it was just Mike's time at that time. So the same thing now. It's like, if you're that man, like I said, if SGA cannot afford to falter now. A month ago, SGA could have probably cruised to an MVP, but he cannot afford to falter now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other question is going to be, like, they have already clinched their playoff spot. Cavs and Thunder are the only two that are in. And we got, 18 games, 17 games, depending on who you are,
Good
left.
positioning.
2 weeks or so.
How close is the team behind them?
12 games. They're first place by 12 games, Oklahoma.
I can't see them stepping off the gas, because that can carry over into the playoffs. So
yes.
Now, if you're talking about 1 or 2 games, all right, I might see that.
Yeah.
But right now, and that bodes for SGA. He's going to go out there and he's going to compete and he's going to play at a high level. So.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's like last 2 games and they got the number 1 seed locked in, sure, they're going to rest their best players a little bit if it doesn't really matter but yeah, you can't afford. That's the one thing in all sports, I think, going into the postseason, you want to be hot. You want to be on a streak. You don't want to, you can't afford to. We've seen, I know it's football, but look at my Steelers this year, losing all right before the playoffs. Look at the Eagles last year. How you guys collapse at the end of the year. That's the last thing you want, is to go into the playoffs with a bunch of losses. So you can't take your foot off the gas. I mean, 12 games, Boston's back 8.5 games. Boston can make a run, but it looks like it's going to be Cleveland and Oklahoma going into the playoffs, but who knows?
Damn it.
Yeah. But it's crazy. But the way I was looking at it's not just about the player. Everyone's got to step up their game. Yes, I was more about talking about the media and how they were always like pushing towards the one player, like Jokic.
And we talked about that last week too, Mitch. I'm glad you brought that up. It's just like, once again, what are media people going to do? They're going to try to make a newsworthy announcement, something shocking, something that you're going to want to talk about on social media and stuff. So just like you're alluding to, if they start talking Jokic up more, then you got more talk about it. I mean, people just need to let themselves make their own opinion. Don't let the players talking or the media influence you as much. Of course, they're going to influence you. That's part of it. It's what you're hearing. But that's a good point, Mitch. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. For me, I don't know if you guys actually heard this, but there's a rumor that the Sixers are looking to trade Paul George.
I mean, if they can, you have to try to move him, and I don't see why not. I mean, it's a good example of just something that didn't work out. I mean, on paper, here's the thing. Let's be real. And this is going to sound way off base, and people in the chat will probably shit on me for this. And it's a huge what if. If Paul George and Embiid were both healthy the whole year, I think we have a different conversation about this.
Oh, my God. Right, yes.
Completely.
1,000%. Yes.
And that's the one thing that I think a lot of fans are forgetting about. And that's why, and I think you're on the same page. We were talking about last week. I think we're coming back with the same team next year. Yeah. I hope not. But here's the thing, just because they're talking about possibly thinking to move Paul George, that's good enough for me. Whether they do or not, I don't care. But just that it's in the air, because it looks like a project that just didn't work, just didn't fit in, whether he played or not. We've talked about it too, Mitch. Whenever I'll still remember that stream where you were going through 43 injuries he's had in his career or whatever. And it's like, but it's going to be tough to get out of those contracts. And I know it's a huge what if, but with the youth, especially with now Grimes, Council, Edwards, Bona, Maxey, McCain, wow. That's a young team that could be competing for 10 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, you can be, yes, Sixers are terrible. Yes, they're losing all the time. Yes, they can't beat anybody. Yes, they can't close out. Yes, there are a bunch of injuries. But it's like, I'm looking at the silver lining. Look at all the really promising young players.
Yeah.
But it's the money of Embiid and PG that are going to hold that team down. And it's not real. If you get rid of both of those, it's going to be at least a year or two. You're going to have those young players until you got to sign one of them, and you can't because you're paying the two guys too much money. So it's a hell of a conundrum they got themselves into. And I know a lot of people want to blame Morey. They want to blame the coach. They want to blame whoever. It's a combination of everything. That's a problem when your team's doing that well. And then you get down on yourself. Like you said 2 weeks ago, I think it was. Look at the expectations, third or fourth.
Yep.
Now with the injuries, you lose arguably your top two players, two of the top three. And now you're fumbling to try to, and your fans lose faith. They don't want to go to the games. They don't want to see the team go there just to lose. I get it. But if you look at the silver lining, all those young players, Edwards coming out of nowhere, Bona starting to develop, Council, you said it the other day, Grimes has been a godsend.
Yeah.
With Maxey out. So it's like, I just want to focus on the positives. Me and you could sit here and talk for 4 hours about everything we don't like about our team right now.
Yeah.
But if you think about the silver lining, it could be so much worse. What if we didn't have any young players that were good?
Kind of like what happened last year.
Up forever. Yeah.
Kind of like what happened last year. But the thing is, with Paul George, he's so untradeable that you can take. I would literally take anything. I would take anything, but Daryl Morey's going to ask for too much.
What if Daryl Morey's going to ask for too much? I want to go somewhere else. Like if Paul George wants to leave, that might help the situation out a lot.
That might help. And B may want out. Maxey.
And like I said, or you're looking at two guys who were arguably top 10 players when they're healthy and at the top of their game, right? Embiid and Paul George. Can arguably maybe towards the end of the top 10, but still in top 10 at their prime. If you take those two guys out and don't get anything for them, I think this team has promise in the next 5 years because of the good in their youth. And you don't need 10 stars. If Maxey McCain pan out, that's all you need. Bona we talked about it earlier. His size, he hasn't put on weight yet. He's going to get pushed around with some of the big boys, but he's only a rookie. And how many years did he play in UCLA? I don't know. So
I honestly forget. But Paul George has so many injuries right now. For his groin and knees, it's possible procedure this week. So I'm like, you could have done that earlier, right? Yeah. Done that earlier, but they waited too long.
Same thing with Embiid. And I know I've heard you in halftime people say they knew he was hurt and they still signed the extension. They signed the extension when he was hurt, not injured, in hopes that he wouldn't get injured. That's the thing. I don't think they knew he had to get surgery and would be out the whole year pretty much, and maybe into next year when they signed that extension. They're signing that extension hoping, okay, the worst is behind us. We now can manage him better. He's going to be healthy. And it didn't work out that way. That's the bottom line to me. It sucks, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Crazy, this whole thing. But real quick, Coach, how do you feel about your Knicks right now? I want to hear about your Knicks right now. Yeah. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry.
You're good.
It's an up and down, it's a roller coaster ride with the Knicks right now. Yeah, they had a lot of Knicks fans are talking about last night with the win, the last second win, but it's like, okay, you went out this to the West Coast, lost the 2 games to LA, yes, you lost Jalen Brunson, but you've won these last 2, and then you play Saturday night against Golden State, which I'm so pissed that they put them on ABC. I'm like,
Yeah. I'm gonna stream that game maybe.
every time they play on Saturday nights, they get blown out. So, but it's tough with the Knicks because you want to go full bore into them, but then how many times have they broken your heart? So it's like, okay, I'm waiting to see. I'm more. What are they going to do come to playoffs? I mean, I'm hearing good things about the defense with Mitch back. The defensive rating is starting to improve. So bless you. Are they going to make any adjustments? Are they going to put Mitch in the starting lineup, move Josh Hart down to the second unit? I'm trying to figure out why they signed what's his name, PJ Tucker. I'm like, what is he going to bring to the table?
It was like a 10-day, right?
Yeah, but from when they interviewed him, the reporters were saying that it sounds like he believes that he's going to be here till the end of the season.
Just trying to get depth, maybe for the playoffs. Just trying to get depth for postseason, maybe.
What can he give you? I mean, is he going to be the last man on the bench? I'm like, I'd rather you sign another big man, especially if Porty is going to be out for even more time. But I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I haven't seen. I don't get to see the game, so I can't really talk too in depth. I just know. Mikal Bridges. If he plays like that, him and OG has been consistent. Now he's been hitting a consistent 20, even before Brunson went out. So if he can continue to play like that, that's good. Mikal Bridges, I can't have him next game give me 15 points. I can't.
Right.
And that's why I say it's a roller coaster. Deuce McBride, if he can give me 15 consistent, okay, have that one game where he hits 25, but then he's back to 15. Okay, I'm cool with that. Josh Hart continue to be the triple double guy. Cat, I understand. He's dealing with little lingering injuries, but mentally, with what his girl and his family's been dealing with, it's like, do I want him to really be the 30-plus man a game? Yeah, I do, but I also understand. So, and Tibbs, Mikal called you out. Use more of the bench. So and that's the thing. If he can start using the bench a little bit more, I think it will help them in the long run. Come playoff time, because trust your bench. I mean, I know he uses about 8 for the most part. But sometimes you got to go 10 deep, get those other guys in there, because in situations like this, I don't want to see another Indiana series, where key player is getting knocked off because their bodies are breaking down. Let's be real. Like I said before, I heard the argument, Tibbs is not the one to take this team to the championship. Has he run his course?
How long have you had him as your coach?
I think, what is it, 5 years?
It doesn't even feel like 5 years.
Yeah, I think it's 5 years.
Honestly. Oh, wow. I thought it was like 2 or 3 at most.
No, because remember, Brunson has been here 3 years, and Tibbs was here before that. I think he was here 2 years. And, I think the second year he won, was it the coach of the year? I think he won coach of the year second year. So, and then Brunson, this is his 3rd year. So, yeah, so he's been here about 5 years.
That's crazy. Yeah. The thing for me, for the Knicks right now, what are they? What is the record against top teams right now? Isn't it like
0-8, I believe?
0-8 or something like that? I'm like, things can change definitely in the playoffs. But
I think I don't think the Lakers are included. They got swept by the Lakers too.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they lost in New York and they lost in LA.
So, oh wow. Damn.
So
Yeah.
it's that's the point, But they're not gritty like they were last year.
Yeah.
That defensive intensity is gone, and you're going to make the argument. Look, you're trading off key players, letting key players go, getting rid of draft picks. You brought Carl Anthony in. He's not a defensive dominator. He's not a rim protector. That's where Mitchell comes into play. But now, if you move Cat to the 4 and move Mitchell to the 5, you got Hot Porty back. Then you start to say, okay, now Tibbs, you got to use those players, and that's the thing for me. So and when is Brunson coming back? That's the key. Brunson got to come back, and then he got to play himself into shape.
Yep. And actually, BC, before I forget, I'm actually live streaming the Lakers and the Bucks game tonight. So that should be good. No LeBron, but it should still be a good game. I'm not streaming the Sixers right now tonight.
Maybe it'll be some bull jive and baloney tonight.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Speaking of that, let's do our predictions and then we'll call it a night. We'll call it a show. Washington at Detroit. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Detroit.
I'm going
what
Detroit.
Story
yeah.
they are this year, though, man. For a team to be 37-29, that's a hell of a story. Turnaround the last 2 years.
I think they're the Cinderella team of the year.
Yeah,
I really think so. When you put them from like the last 2 years to now, they're rightly rebuilt. They're shocking everyone right now with Cade and how well the team's playing together. They're my Cinderella team throughout the year so far.
Let that be a shining example that, it doesn't take 10 years to get out of a hole. You get the right player, develop them, surround them with good role players, and look what Detroit's doing. Cleveland's another one. I mean, look what they've done in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Same thing with the thing with the Thunder, too, is they could have crashed and burned after they lost that big 3 and been terrible for a long time, but they started to plan for the future. Getting those picks the last couple of years, SGA, Chad Holmgren, and them, they've really built that team back. You don't have to, and I have this argument with Steeler fans all the time because they're always saying, oh, mediocre, your team's always mediocre, don't go anywhere. That's better than being 3-15 or being the bottom of the barrel for 2 and 3 years and having to completely rebuild. I mean, you're just retooling, which means 1 or 2 players can change your game. Cade coming into his own now and some other players in Detroit have changed that whole franchise. I mean, 2 years ago, weren't they worst in the league for 2 or 3 years in a row? So it's that's a huge turnaround. I don't think they're going to go
Same with the Lions too. What are they feeding in Detroit right now?
Same thing. I mean,
what are they feeding in Detroit right now?
And they've had futility forever, so it's good for for decades, I should say. But it's just a good story to see. I've no dog in the fight in Detroit, but it's a good story to see a team turn around like that. It should be a shining example to the other teams that aren't doing well. That it doesn't take the world to have to change to rebuild your team.
Nope. And then next up, Lakers versus Bucks. This is a good game. I feel.
I'm gonna go Lakers for some reason. I don't know.
I'm going Milwaukee.
I'm gonna go Lakers. I feel like Luka's he's got the whole team to himself. So I feel like he can work some Luka magic. Brooklyn at Chicago.
I like the Bulls.
I don't want Brooklyn to lose, so I'm going Brooklyn.
Brooklyn is one of those underrated. Yes, they don't have a great record, but
they're good. I like their players.
He said, we always lose it in the Leaf. Leaf was saying, he said, we're always losing it in the fourth quarter. We're there with everybody. But then come the 4 quarters when and I'm like, wow, really? So, but you're at Chicago. I think it's going to be Chicago.
Yeah. Orlando at New Orleans. I need New Orleans to win, but I'm going Orlando.
I think it's Orlando.
Yeah, Sacramento at Golden State. That's a good game. Yeah.
It's on a nice little run. I like the Kings team. It's so weird to see Levine and DeRozan on a different team. They left that team into another one.
And no Fox.
Yeah, and no Fox.
I'm going to say this.
I'm going Golden State, by the way.
I saw them when they played the Knicks, and I was not impressed by that team. my Knicks just totally dominated them, and it was just like I'm going Golden State.
Okay.
Golden
Yeah, I'm
State's
going
hot right
Golden
now,
State.
man.
Yep. Golden State. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, guys. So that's going to conclude the Pick and Roll podcast. Make sure you guys hit that like, hit that subscribe. We got a show tonight called Hot Takes and Headlocks with Joe and Xavier. We got a Flyers pregame show with James and me streaming the Lakers versus Bucks. So we got a lot of content coming your way. So hit that like, hit that subscribe. Coach, do you have another show coming up that you want to plug?
The only other show right now I've been doing is Heart of the City.
Heart of the City?
Yeah, that's
How
on
did that
Tuesday.
doing? How's that going for you?
It was we just did the first. I just did the first one on Tuesday. It was all right, So I mean, I'm taking my time, little by little. I've been doing. I haven't written an article in the last 2 days, but I've been writing articles for the website. So I threw it on a few football articles.
Yeah,
So
I started writing a Sixers article for my other website. Yeah.
yeah, so I've been debating if I should do something for Unrivaled or my disappointment in Rutgers. I don't know. I'm just trying to decide. So
Yeah. Very tough. And Blaze, David asks, are you streaming?
Yeah, I'll be live in like half an hour.
Alright,
Maybe
guys,
maybe
okay.
sooner, maybe a little later.
Who knows? We'll catch you guys later. All right, have a good rest of your night. Peace, guys.